JR, I don't have a question for you this week, but I do have a question for our guest, Jesse. Jesse, what's a functioning alcoholic?
First of all, I'd like to say what's up to everybody else, everybody out there. Sorry, listening to us. I'm happy to be back on Dysh. Happy to be here. Feeling well today. Sun is shining out there. So the question was, what's a functional alcoholic?
Yes.
Well, as a matter of fact, what I believe is an alcoholic is an alcoholic. You can get somebody who is functional, who seems well and is working and has healthy relationships, but might have a drinking problem that a lot of the time nobody knows about. And then you can get people out there in detoxes, on the streets, in jail, waking up to the bottle, drinking all day, going to sleep with the bottle, and who may develop delirium tremens, which is shaking and vomiting when they don't drink. So to answer that question, there's a wide range of different alcoholics. And a lot of people who are alcoholics, if they never told you they were, you might never even know. I identify with being an alcoholic. Recently, a few months ago, I finally admitted that I am an alcoholic.
Before we get into that, let's just start showing Dysh. JR, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
That's good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And Jesse, how are you doing before we get started?
I'm doing good. It's always good to be here with you guys and to chill with you and to talk and to be inspired and to, hopefully say something that people might identify with.
Perfect. So you were stressing the difference between, there's like a spectrum of alcoholism.
I'm just going to say, and thank you for dishing with Dainty Dish. And there you go.
There you go.
Listen.
I was thinking I'd have to say that. This is
what we're doing today, okay, guys? This is what we're doing.
Pre-production rolled into production. We're just in a flow.
We're in a flow. So, Jesse, let's get back to you.
All right.
So there's a spectrum of alcoholism according to you.
Okay.
And what's that spectrum look like?
Like I was saying, you can get your average businessman who goes out after work and has a couple of drinks, and on the weekends, gets kind of stupid and goes out and party with his buddies. Or you can get people on the streets who are living on that stuff. And I'm not sure if I would call it a spectrum of alcoholics, because when I hear spectrum, I think about young people with autism. But there's so many different types of alcoholics. An alcoholic basically is somebody who is an abnormal drinker. Right? Mm-hmm. So you look at people, you can be a normal drinker or an abnormal drinker. If you're a normal drinker, you can have one or two drinks here and there every once in a while. Cut it off. Don't worry about it. It doesn't affect your life in a super negative way. Mm-hmm. If you're an abnormal drinker, then you're going to have one or two, and you're probably going to end up 10 and passed out somewhere with puke running off your face. I mean, not exactly that situation every time, but an abnormal drinker is somebody who can't enjoy alcohol in a safe way. And that doesn't mean that every day they would drink and they would go hardcore, but at least a couple times a week or whatever. There's many different types of alcoholics. I found it, so I'm an alcoholic, and I found it difficult to admit that I was an alcoholic. And I had to look back in my life and identify. Here I am saying identify again. I'm saying identify too much. Anyway,
no, you're not. It's okay.
I had to look back in my life and see what alcohol did for me. And a lot of the negative things in my life resulted from the use of alcohol. So I consider myself an addict. A lot of people don't use that word. For those people who have a problem with the term addict, I'll use the term substance user or even abuser. And these are people like myself who they get a little bit of a drug, and the drug can be anything like marijuana, cocaine, pills, alcohol, prescribed medications. Somebody who once they take a substance, then they can't stop, and it becomes a regular thing, and it increases in usage, right? So when I was growing up, and last time I was on Dainty Dish podcast, I talked about my issues with schizophrenia. So
you did. You
might have realized already that I'm talking about alcoholism, and I'm going to touch on addiction too this time around.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I mean, like, there was no real alcoholism, or, well, I mean, there was some alcoholism in my grandparents. Two of my grandparents in particular. But I mean, I didn't understand what addiction was, and the alcohol was the first thing that I used, and I loved it. I loved, drinking beer and drinking other alcohol.
How old were you?
And so probably the first time I ever drank alcohol was maybe when I was like 12 or 13 or something. And I started, I didn't go balls to the walls right off the bat and become a heavy drinker, but it was around. And in my teenage years, so around grade 11 was when I started trying other drugs too. But I mean, like grade 9 and 10, I wasn't drinking like excessively or using drugs. But in grade 11, I started doing a lot of drugs, and I started experimenting with smoking weed, smoking hash, doing acid, shrooms, ecstasy, cocaine, speed, and one of my girlfriends got me crushing and snorting Ritalins and codeine. So I was doing all these drugs, and back then, like it was like experimental reasons, right? I wasn't self-medicating or anything like that, and it wasn't really a genetic thing, because like I said before, like I had two grandparents who drank, but my parents and my uncles and uncles and aunts and cousins, didn't really have addictions issues. But I did all these drugs, and for the most part, I enjoyed it. That's the thing, like with substances, like you enjoy them for a long time until they start to really like hurt your life in many ways. So through that, I did all these drugs, and most of them semi-regularly. But what I found was my favorite drug was marijuana. Right? That became my drug of choice. So my DOC, my drug of choice. That's what I started doing every day, all day. So I smoked weed. I probably smoked like close to 3 or 3.5 grams a day. Those who smoke weed out there, a half quad is what it's called, which is half of a quarter, and a quarter is 7 grams, and it's a quarter of an ounce, 7 grams, and an ounce is 28 grams. So that's how you those are the increments you talk about, right?
Yeah.
So I smoked about a half quad a day, really good weed too, because I hung around with like rich white kids. So they got the best weed, right? Because my one buddy I lived across the street from, he had a grow up in his basement, which I didn't even know about until he moved away.
Wow!
But we used to hang out, and he had a very nice glass bong, which is called a snotty, right? That's the brand name for certain bongs. Mm-hmm. So I used to go over to his place, and I'd smoke a couple of bowls of this stuff, and I'd be flying high, man. Like, this weed was good shit. You know what I'm saying? And he had the best strains. So strains are the type of weed they are, the different backgrounds, the indicas, the sativas, and he had strains that had very high THC. So tetrahydrocannabinol, that's the drug that gets you high. So his strains had really high THC. And there's also CBD, cannabinol, which is linked to some protective agents in your brain that can be used for various different reasons. The CBD is emerging now, and people are using it for many different medical reasons. So I was high all the time, and to get more weed, what I had to do was sell weed. So that's what I did all throughout high school. I sold weed to get weed, right? And so I was pretty much high throughout all of high school.
Were you drinking as well during this time?
Good question. I was, actually. I was drinking mostly at parties, like house parties. I would get trashed. In the park, we had park parties. I would get trashed. I had a number of times where, I woke up in places that I didn't even remember how I got there. I remember this one time I was hanging out with some really bad guys, some real, criminals. Seedy characters, criminals, And I remember one time I was drinking, I drank almost a 60 of some, really, really shitty rum. And I was smoking a lot of weed, and I woke up on a nature path in a park to somebody shaking me, and then I passed out again. I woke up being put in an ambulance, then I passed out again, and I woke up at the hospital in the bed connected to an IV. And I was an idiot. I smoked cigarettes back then. I pulled a cigarette out, lit it up in the hospital, and they ripped the IV off me and kicked me out of the hospital. You know what I mean? Another time, I had a house party at my parents' house, and I ended up getting in a fight, getting a tooth knocked out, and then waking up on the kitchen floor the next morning in my own puke. Right? As people know, the fact that I have schizophrenia, I would have to go to see my psychiatrist, and my mom would drive me there, or in the earlier days, and we'd have to stop along the way for me to open the door and lean out and throw up on the road on the way there. You know what I mean? And
because you were drunk?
Yeah, because I had been really drunk the day before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I lost a lot of opportunities because of being drunk, and yeah.
So I know earlier we were talking, earlier before we got on here, we were talking about how you find the actual taste of alcohol to be flavorful or enjoyable, and I was just like, no, it's. I think it's, even though it's an acquired taste, I still think it tastes disgusting. How did that play a role in you continuing to drink and choosing your? Because you had your drug of choice, but what was your drink of choice? And how did how did that kind of make its way in there?
Thank you for bringing that up, man. So I'll just yeah. So weed was my drug of choice throughout high school, and then I got sober from everything. I got clean from everything. You know, some people have a problem with using the term clean and sober, because that kind of insinuates that you were dirty before or something like that. So I just try to use just sober by itself. But when I developed schizophrenia, I got sober from all the drugs, and then, you know, I didn't drink or do drugs for a couple of years until I got better and entered into recovery and gained insight into my illness. And then I started to drink again. And, you know, in high school, you know, or in my early 20s, I would drink like Molson Canadian. I'd have like, you know, a big bag of chips and drink a 12, like a half a 2 for a Canadian on the front porch. You know what I mean?
Okay, so beer.
Yeah. So beer, shit beer, right? Real shit beer. No offense to you that drink Molson Canadian, but I think it's shit beer. But I kind of got it in my mind that, like, I'm sort of a beer connoisseur. You know what I mean? And if I ever went somewhere where there was a beer that I hadn't tried, I'd try it. You know what I'm saying? I loved the taste of beer. Guinness is my favorite beer. And the first 2 times I tried it, my dad got me to try it. First 2 times I hated it. The third time I loved it, and I never looked back.
Wow.
You know, and then I love a good English ale, like a nice hoppy English ale with a creamy head, or on a patio when it's sunny and warm, having a lager, a nice cold lager, or a Corona with a lime in it, or, you know, yeah, I love beer, and I loved the feeling of being drunk, because I was a very sociable, happy drunk. You know what I mean? I would go to the bar or pub, or I'd be at a wedding, or I'd enjoy myself drinking. But the thing was that I'd overdo it, and I'd sometimes say stupid things and insult people, or I'd put myself in dangerous situations, or I'd end up sleeping with women that I probably shouldn't even come close to, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, so...
The Duffs.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so, and then, like, a lot of the time, and this is the scary part, like, I would... When I went out drinking, I would wake up the next morning, or early afternoon usually, and wake up and think, oh my God, I can't remember anything after 8 o'clock the night before.
So you were like
right?
a blackout drunk.
Exactly. And so then I would wake up, and the first thing I'd do is like, holy shit, I can't remember anything after 8 o'clock. Like, what did I do? Did I hurt somebody? Did I do something stupid? Am I okay? And then I'll do a scan of my body. Okay, I'm okay. I didn't hurt myself. Then I do a scan of, like, my possessions. I'm like, okay, I have all my possessions. And then it would just be this blank spot. You know what I mean? And made me feel so uncomfortable.
So when did you realize, like, throughout the course of the years that you consider yourself an alcoholic? When did that realization hit?
Wow, okay. Well, a big part of it was my mom saying to me, like, you should check out AA, right? And I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And it was only, I mean, it was so tough to admit it, you know, like, and then I did. And people were, like, close friends were saying to me, like, oh, you know, thank God you're sober. I'm so proud of you. I wanted to say something, but I never did. So it was like this elephant in the room thing, that people saw the way I was acting, but nobody said, hey man, I'm worried about you. I think you might be an alcoholic, right? It was only afterwards that people said, yeah, I'm really proud of you. I'm really, you're doing the right thing, I think.
I think it's a tough thing to say to someone. I would imagine that it would be a tough thing.
For sure.
It is like an elephant in the room. Like it would be. I would imagine that would be very difficult to even hear from another person, like someone you care about. You know what I mean? So,
I've had family members tell me I drink too much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a running joke in our family.
It's kind of I mean, but I've acknowledged, but I was drinking too much of that for a period of time. Facts, like there's no question there. I've never really liked the taste of alcohol, so it's never been a big deal for me not to drink. It's just at the time it was an excuse to escape.
So I'm going to be. Thanks for sharing.
Oh yeah, I was just trying to fill the dead space.
But anyway, so the first step for me to be getting sober is to admit that I'm an alcoholic, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be 90 days sober in a few days from now.
Okay, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's due to a lot of people who have supported me. And now
what's your plan? Like going forward, what would your plan be? Like patio season is coming up.
I know,
right?
I know,
it's vastly approaching.
I know.
What is the game plan for you?
So, I'm so fresh, like as I said, 90 days. I'm so fresh that I still get a lot of cravings. Like people I know in recovery who have been in recovery for years say, I don't even get cravings anymore. I have freedom, from my substance use. I know people, have alcoholism as well as addictions issues from a wide range of different drug of choices. So I still have cravings. Like I'll walk by a beer store or an LCBO and like it'll trigger me. I'll think about drinking, or I'll walk by those bars and pubs in my neighborhood and kind of like feel drawn to. I could just have one pint. You know what I mean? Just have one pint, but I don't go in because I know that it's not just going to be one pint, and I don't want to relapse, right? So I'm just gonna, so with addiction. In general, when you remove your drug of choice, you create a void, right? Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is find healthy things to fill that void.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever works for you, like going to meetings, going to AA meetings, or calling people in recovery, or going to movies, or even going to like a rock show, if you feel strong enough, even if there's alcohol there, or doing yoga or playing hockey, or positive things, positive healthy
self-care
things,
type thing.
Because the thing is that when you take away the drug, like I said, there's a void, so you got to fill it with healthy things. But a lot of people like reach out for other substances, so you got to watch out for that too.
Such as, like,
what do you mean, like switching,
like substitution addiction or cross addiction.
Okay,
is what they call it. So, a lot of people. I know this guy, a close friend of mine. He used to have a problem smoking crack, right? And he knows that if he drinks, he'll go and smoke crack, right? So what he does is he smokes weed.
Marijuana maintenance program.
Yeah, there you go. And, he rationalizes it that he smokes weed and that's better than smoking crack, right?
Yeah.
That's his particular choice. You know what I mean? But yeah, so some people will reach for other substances, but I think the most important thing to do is to find healthy things to replace it with, right? Your drug of choice. Find healthy things rather than other substances. I'm not trying to bad talk weed, but for me, if I smoke weed, I go straight into psychosis. I have breakthrough symptoms. So I know that doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? And it's really like knowledge of self too, like what works for you. You know what I mean? Like if a substance is, helping you with something, and it's not like detrimental to your life, then maybe you can do that. But there's a difference in opinion on using one substance over other substances, because we all ingest a certain amount of sugar or sodium or trans fats or caffeine, or people may be addicted to gambling or to sex, or you can be addicted to a wider range of things. But is it really like detrimental to your life? Is it really like affecting your life in a negative way, right? I know that when I removed alcohol, I reached for caffeine. I drink more caffeine. I'm trying to bring that down, right? But I do go to caffeine, and I do eat crappy food here and there too. You know what I mean? But the thing with the void is like, so when you take away, so for me, when you take away alcohol, first of all, I'm rearranging my whole life, because my life really was
revolved around
the alcohol. So what I'm doing now is trying to work like a program where I'm changing my life, to support what I'm, like to I don't know how I'm wording it, but
you're altering your life so that you don't need alcohol as a crutch,
future,
essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, removing the alcohol means that I have to learn more about myself and try to overcome the things I've been through and move towards a healthier space, mind, body, spiritual. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a question for you. What's it like to deal with co-disorders? So your schizophrenia and your alcoholism combined, like what is that like? It's because I feel like it would be different than someone who doesn't necessarily have mental health illnesses but has addiction issues.
Right.
But someone who has a mental health illness and an addiction issue, what is dealing with both of those and balancing those two like?
Yeah, good question. So when you have a combination of a mental health issue, like say schizophrenia, and a addiction issue, whatever the drug is, for me it's alcohol, you call that concurrent disorders.
Thank you, concurrent.
Yeah. So when you have concurrent disorders, you got to watch out, like you got to make sure that you're dealing with both of them, right? So for me, I need to take antipsychotics for schizophrenia so I don't have the psychosis or voices, and I have to keep I was trying to keep my drinking to a minimum, but now I'm abstaining from alcohol. But they can play back and forth, like people may have an addiction self-medicating for the mental health issues, or they can have mental health issues as a result of using substances
And self-medicating.
Yeah.
So, which came first for you, the chicken or the egg?
I think it was I don't believe that the street drugs created schizophrenia for me. I believe that they accelerated the onset of schizophrenia, but they didn't cause it, right?
Okay.
But yeah, when I think about it, like I was drinking alcohol to deal with what was going on in my mind.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So
that's why you started so young. You felt did you feel like the symptoms of schizophrenia coming on, and so you just said, "I'm going to try drinking"? Is that how that went down?
no, it was just a social thing.
Okay.
You know.
So you talked about what your game plan is going to be. What are you going to do to continue to stay sober? What outside of like the summertime and the patio situation? Like, what are you going to do?
I forgot we were going to touch on that. Yeah. So I mean, I will be out there on the patio, drinking my pop. I think. Not all the time, but as I get stronger and stronger, because, somebody I know said to me that if you keep going to the barber shop and sitting in the chair, eventually you're going to get a haircut, right? So, yeah, probably I'll be doing a lot of walks through the park, maybe be on patios, maybe be out there playing golf.
Did you play? Are you an avid golf player?
I've been playing for the last, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years or something.
Okay.
I'm not very good yet, but
never played.
It's a tough game. You gotta really put your time into it to get good. So, yeah.
And we all know you love yoga.
Yeah, yoga's been great. Still do yoga. Yeah.
Earlier in our conversation, you said that there were a lot of missed opportunities because of your alcoholism. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I remember I was one of the situations I was thinking about was I was consulting for a TV show that was being created, and they needed insight from somebody with schizophrenia. So I ended up the night before going out late and getting shit-faced and waking up to go to this consult, and it was like I had to be picked up from Kipling Station. So I had to take the TTC all the way from my place to Kipling Station, which was like a long way. And I felt like hell the whole way there. And when I got there, I had nothing to say, you know?
Just silence?
Yeah, I had nothing to give them. And I know it was because I had gone out too late the night before and I just wasn't in shape, you know? In my younger years, I worked a lot of minimum wage jobs. Mm-hmm. Joe jobs, I call them. And, couldn't hold a job. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't hold a job. You know, went from kitchen to kitchen, worked at Burger King, worked at the gas station, worked in construction, worked for a pool company, worked, these crappy jobs, and I couldn't keep them. And that was also partially because of my mental health issues, but it was also the addictions too, right? Mm-hmm. They kind of overlap a lot, mental health issues and addictions, you know?
Why do you say that?
because, I mean, you can have drug-induced psychosis, right? So psychosis is a break from reality in your mind. And you can have drug-induced psychosis. The thing is, with drug-induced psychosis is supposed to go away when your drug wears off.
You can get that from alcohol?
And you can, sure. If you drink enough of it, you can get high. You can get drunk, but you can also like experience psychosis if you drink enough over a longer period of time, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's always positives and negatives to every situation. So what has been a positive of acknowledging your addiction issues?
I think that it's the positive now is that I can be with people and not have to do a drug. I am able to, think clearly and focus and remember and be with people, and I'm experiencing a lot of stuff within me that I didn't realize was there. Now I'm recognizing it. And I'm able to, I may not be smiling all the time right now, but I'm feeling love and life, and I'm working on myself now.
So would you say it's more of like an...
So now that I've removed the addiction, I mean, I've mentioned this before a little bit, but now that I've removed the addictions, I can see what I need to work on, sort of,
Is it like accepting yourself now and not needing the drug to kind of open you up?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because before the drugs or the alcohol was my solution, now I'm, developing a relationship with God, and God is now my solution. You know what I mean?
Okay. And this is just a general question. What would you say to someone who thinks they're more of a self-medicator than they are an addict? Like, you talked about self-medication earlier in the conversation. I'm just wondering, if you can expand on that. Self-medicating versus having an addiction issue.
I think they're one and the same as I see it. Yeah. Like, if you are using a drug to self-medicate, then you're most likely going to become addicted to that drug, right? Because if you remove it, then you're going to get sick, right?
True. Well, thank you so much, Jesse, for being on the show and talking about your addiction issues. We really very much appreciate it. Julian, did you have any other questions?
No,
you're good. Okay. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Just give a shout out to all the people out there who need some love. I hope you find love in your life, from God, from yourself, and from others around you.
That was beautiful. If you guys want to get in touch with Jesse to talk more about his addiction issues or his schizophrenia, JR, please tell them how they can reach Jesse and us if they want to say hello.
Absolutely. You can reach us at Dysh, DYSH, at daintydysh.com. That's DAINTYDYSH.com. Thank you so much for listening. We truly appreciate it. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts,
Give us a 5. Use it 5.
thank you so much. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud, YouTube, or any other platform, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your feedback. It is it is taken in, and it is used to produce better quality shows. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Woof. Anyways, that has been the dish of the day, and I hope y'all have yourselves a very, very, very happy hump day.